Okay. Some days I think this is just gonna pause for a while, and we're just gonna be sitting here just blankly for like 30 seconds. Like, oh, it's live. Anyway, look what's available now. Zazzle.com/the cinema snob. People who haven't been watching midnight screenings for a long time are gonna be like, the fuck?
We haven't referenced that in like 2 years.
Yeah, we got toys at this movie.
Yeah.
We haven't actually opened it up yet. Yeah, we got a little... Oh, you opened yours up.
Yeah.
What is this again? Is it candy?
No, it's just like a little figure.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't eat it. It's not as good as when we went to go see Amazing Spider-Man and we had the little like plush figures that you won in the crane machine. Because we went to the other theater where the crane machine was super, super easy. I'll just set this up here for now. Anyway, so we just got out of the Beguiled. We got out of Spider-Man Homecoming, which is really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was excellent.
See it.
Yeah, bye.
Anyway, you want to start?
Where to start? I mean, it's I guess you can compare it to other Spider-Man movies, I guess is where to start.
Sure.
And I'd say it's probably as a whole the best of all of them.
Yeah, probably.
But I'm gonna be honest. Like, normally I love Marvel movies, and I really like this movie, but it's got some things that I had some serious problems with.
I had some issues with the movie.
Yeah,
certainly. It'd be easy for me to compare it to the first Spider-Man movie from 2002 because I rewatched that yesterday.
It's better than that.
Yeah, it's better than that on the grounds Tom Holland is so much better than Tobey Maguire.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, every fault I found in this movie, every time it's just like, yeah, but Tom Holland's so fucking
He's so good. Yeah, he's kind of Andrew McCarthy-esque in the movie, which is awesome. Yeah, no, he's a great Peter Parker. And my major faults with this movie are A, some storytelling things that they did, and B, I know a lot of people love the idea of Peter Parker in high school, being a high school kid and shit like that, but that's not the Peter Parker I grew up with. I grew up reading comics where Peter Parker was in his 20s or 30s, and he was, still being Spider-Man, and like... I didn't really mind that in this movie, in the sense that he looks like a high school student.
No, in this one he does look like a high school student, and there is a certain romanticism out there for Peter Parker being like a high school kid and so much younger than everyone else. It's just... that's not the Peter Parker I grew up with, and that's my issue. That's no one else's issue, that's my issue.
If he was older in this movie, you'd watch this kind of in the way of some of the other ones, only the opposite, where it's like, he looks like he's in high school. What's going on here?
Yeah. No, and for that, he's great, and it's got more humor and good humor for Spider-Man than any of the other movies.
I thought Andrew Garfield was really good.
I loved Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield was a fantastic Spider-Man, and he was a really good Peter Parker, especially in the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
In the second one, when he tried a little more with that Brooklyn accent, it was like, dude, come on.
I don't even remember so much of that because I only saw that the one time, which actually I've only seen Amazing Spider-Man the one time too, but like most, I wasn't that huge of a fan of Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is definitely a step up from that.
Oh, no, without question.
This isn't several movies cobbled together into one, and the entire thing is just a lead up to a series that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, and in my opinion, still, there's a lot of things in the first Amazing Spider-Man that I would say worked better than in this. Like, for instance, the romance in that is the best in all the Spider-Man ones. But I think that's the chemistry between the two leads. And in this, he's kind of dating Liz Allen, and that works. But then they do some shit where they suddenly make Adrian Toomes her dad. I'm gonna get into spoilers in this shit. We're gonna get spoiler heavy.
Issues that I had some. And issues that I had with this movie, honestly...
Besides the nitpicky shit, my major issue was the direction. especially in the action scenes. Like that. From a filmmaking perspective, I really think that was the biggest problem because motherfucker did some shaky cam shit. And I was fucking hate shaky cam.
I was having a hard time following some of the action in the movie. I was. And I was thinking that as I was watching it. It wasn't every action scene, but it was some. The airplane fight, some of the stuff maybe on the on the water,
the Staten Island.
Yeah. Not the Washington Monument scene. That one I thought was really well done. But other than that, yeah, there were times where I was like, I don't know if it's just me, but I am kind of having some problems with some of the action here.
No, I was too. And shaky cam, normally I can still follow it. In this, it was really hard, honestly.
I've seen it was easier to follow than something like Resident Evil: The Final Chapter, but the movie, I thought it's got a good arc to it. It's got a solid beginning, middle, and end. And I like the relationship with Peter Parker. I like his relationship with him and Tony Stark. I thought all of that was really good. An issue that I kind of had in the first 2/3 of this movie, honestly, wasn't really the movie's fault. It was more so one of the trailers for the movie was a trailer that honestly pretty much showed you most of the acts of this movie. Not everything. There's a big thing in the last act that it doesn't. But it was quite a bit, to the point to where, this is a 2-hour and 15-minute movie, for about 90 minutes or maybe more. It's not that I necessarily thought the movie was predictable. It was just that
it'd been shown to you.
Yeah, so I was spending a lot of it not only knowing the points it was going to get to, but seeing those points in some of the trailer. Like, I know this is going to happen with him and Tony. I know what one of these action sequences is going to be and what is going to come out of that. Like, so I was kind of... It was hard for me to really love what I was watching because of that, but that's not really the movie's fault necessarily. But where it did start honestly really picking up for me was the reveal with Michael Keaton's character, because it was for me anyway, it was a surprise with his character that I didn't see coming, and it led to one of my favorite parts in the movie, which was Peter Parker and Michael Keaton in the car on the way to Homecoming.
Don't get me wrong, and storytelling-wise in the movie, it made sense. Like, for that little arc and things. What it's just like... I think there's such a thing as giving too much background information in a movie. I also think there's such a thing as not giving enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, the nuclear family isn't such an important thing anymore. But still, when you have a character named Liz Allen and her dad is Adrian Toomes, the reveal is that that's her dad. Throw me in off lines, like, stepdad, like something.
That was something I didn't even think about until you mentioned it after we got out of the movie.
But that's probably as coming from a comic book fan and knowing these things. But also, it's just like, but still,
they devote what I was really appreciating, and something like that I just simply didn't notice. What I was really appreciating about it was how much story they were giving to Michael Keaton in this movie. Like, more so than a lot of other Marvel villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe have gotten. I really liked his story. I really liked his performance. There are scenes he's very intense and he's very scary.
Honestly, I think one of the best villains in all the Marvel movies.
By far. By far he is. Because he's certainly a villain where you see his motivation. You see his motivation for doing what he's doing. It's not that you're agreeing with what he's doing, but he's a villain that you understand why he's doing this. He's essentially he's a scavenger who, and I thought it was really cool how they included this story, who would he be doing cleanup on all the disasters that have happened in the previous movies. But then that kind of gets taken away from him, so he takes all this technology that he's gotten, and he's become this arms dealer with it. That, to me, is a pretty captivating story.
Yeah.
And they handle it well in this. He's not just some guy who shows up every now and then. For the first 2/3 of it, yeah, he's showing up to do villainous things, but they show him they show his setup at the beginning of the movie. But then when this family element is added to it in the in the last act, it really, to me, gave him more of a dimension than I see in a lot of these Marvel movies for villains, in terms of villains. So I like that. I appreciate it. I love the opening scene in this movie where it's showing the events that we saw in Civil War, but all from the point of view of, it actually kind of starts like a found footage movie. Like Spider-Man's point of view from Captain America Civil War is kind of shown to us in the first few minutes of this movie, as if it's like this goofy found footage movie that Peter Parker has been making. I thought that was fun. That was a nice touch to it. The relationship between Peter Parker and Tony Stark, where Tony Stark is kind of this like almost tough love father figure to him. I liked that. And it's not like Tony Stark is in this movie much. He's in it. What you see in the trailer are most of the scenes, more, like a couple, but he's there when he needs to be, and he's not there when he doesn't need to be. It never suddenly just becomes
a team-up movie, or
it never suddenly just becomes like a Tony Stark movie that Spider-Man happens to be in.
Yeah, no, the relationship with Happy Hogan I thought was fantastic.
Yeah,
Jon Favreau.
I was so glad he got more screen time in this, because it's mostly Jon Favreau being really grumpy and bitter, or maybe not bitter, but just grumpy, just really grumpy towards Peter Parker. Like, doesn't really want to be dealing with this kid shit. I enjoyed that. He's in the movie more than Tony Stark is.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got a lot of laughs. And when he first popped up in this movie, I was like, man, I really miss Jon Favreau being in these to this extent. I thought it was funny how Gwyneth Paltrow got billing over some actors in this movie.
Yeah, for her cameo in the end.
They're in it way more than she is.
She's in the movie for maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nice to see her back. Because she hasn't been in anything since Iron Man 3 of the Marvel movies. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, okay. Like, that was pleasant. No, overall, I have some minor quibbles with this movie, and a lot of them are basically from being a comic book fan. The biggest filmmaking quibble I had was the fucking shaky cam. And other than that, I have some weird things like, okay, it's a homecoming dance for these kids in 2017. Why are they listening to Flock of Seagulls and the English Beat? like, I appreciate that they are.
That's wow. Settle down, CinemaSins.
No, but it's just one of those things. It's like these are great. Like, they're great songs, but at the same time, it's just like, all right.
You know what? Like, I won't lie. I was thinking about that in the movie, but I wasn't thinking about it like that. That it was more of like that it was an issue I had. It was something that I usually think about in movies because any time in movies post 80s. Whenever there is a prom scene or a homecoming scene, it is always playing like Billy Ocean, or things like that. Like, I do see that it isn't just a thing that this movie's doing. I do see that a lot, but it's nothing I dislike. It's just, that's kind of a prom trope in movies that I think is kind of funny. Like, whenever there's a prom or a dance, it's the one from 16 Candles.
No, and that's really it. And like... Like, I know a lot of, like, the, when they're talking this movie up over the past year or so, there's, like, kind of a John Hughes feel.
I could see that in the movie.
And then when you throw in that a couple 80s songs, it's just like, yeah, you're going for that. You're leaning into it, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that wasn't really an issue. It's just kind of like, it made me pause for a second and think of that,
I paused too, but it was more in the sense that I kind of like that cliche in high school movies with dances. The big dance is gonna be to, like, get out of my dreams, get into my car,
Like, maybe they were listening to it, like, ironically or some shit. No, and then I have to bitch about one other thing, and then I'll be done bitching because everything else about this movie is great. Also,
well, they already think you hate this movie.
No, I liked it. I'm also like I will admit I'm doped to the gills on Benadryl right now. So
he thinks he wasn't the beguiled.
Yeah. So some issues might just be because I'm from the knees down. I'm just fucking covered in poison ivy. So I'm on a whole lot of Benadryl, which fucks you up a little bit when you take too much.
Yeah.
The other issue I had is at the end, there's this character, Zendaya, who I guess is some musician or some shit.
I don't know.
She's in this movie playing this character, Michelle. And at the end, her last line is, someone goes, Michelle, and she goes, my friends call me MJ.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what bullshit Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Dark Knight Rises are you trying to fucking pull? Fuck you.
The big difference for me between the two is in this movie, I was expecting it. Because honestly, like, I had heard going up to this movie that that's who she was playing. So when they were calling her Michelle in the movie, I was like, what? But I was eventually expecting that reveal with that character. So when it happened, I was like, okay, well, there that is. It really would have thrown me off if she was like, my real name is Robin. Like, what? What the hell deal did they work out in the studios on that?
No, they did such a great job with Peter Parker and a lot of the other characters. It's just like, all right, if you're building into the MJ romance, for once, I'd like one of these movies to get Mary Jane right, because none of them have.
You mean you didn't buy Ali Sheedy from The Breakfast Club in this movie as Mary Jane?
No. No, because that's not who fucking Mary Jane is.
I loved Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, you know what? That's not who fucking Mary Jane is.
That's okay. I wasn't who Peter Parker was.
Exactly.
But I loved her. I loved that character in those Spider-Man movies, and I really did. Even watching the movie yesterday, I was like, I really like her in this. Kirsten Dunst and the character. I did.
And Kirsten Dunst was fine, and the character was fine, but it wasn't Mary Jane Watson, who was this character that was mentioned so many times in comics, and Peter brushed it off because he didn't want to date the girl next door. And she turned out to be a fucking supermodel. Mm-hmm. Like, that's who Mary Jane is.
I think Kirsten Dunst is beautiful in those movies.
And also, why change her fucking name to Michelle?
To get that twist in at the end.
Bullshit.
Well, when they were calling her Michelle, I was sitting there thinking, like, oh, maybe that's something in the comics now, where Michelle.
No.
I don't know.
No, that was to throw in some bullshit twist at the end. Mm-hmm. Like, my friends call me MJ, so everybody could be like, oh, in the next movie they're gonna fall in love. Fuck you. Like, you handle everything else so well, and then you do that stupid bullshit. Like in Dark Knight Rises, it was the fucking turd nail in the shit coffin. In this, it was just fucking annoying.
In this, it was sort of like, I don't really know why you did that. I don't really know why you weren't just calling her MJ through the rest of the movie. I don't really know why it had to be this kind of reveal at the end, but I knew it was coming. I knew it was gonna happen. So when it did, it didn't take me out of it. It didn't upset me by any means. I was just sort of like, yeah, okay, I was expecting that to happen.
And you know what? I was too. I can still say it's bullshit when it's bullshit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, but believe me, there's been plenty of movies I've seen where it's like, you see something coming and you know you're not going to like it, and then it does and you still don't like it. Yeah. There's been plenty of movies where that's happened with me. With this, I didn't really have that with this movie. But that's just me. It was just something to where it's like, yeah, I understand any complaints about that. It's not really anything that took me out of it personally, but I get it. There were a couple of characters that I had issues with in this. The friend.
Yeah, Ned Leeds. You know what that was? Unnecessary.
Thank
is
you.
What that fucking
like, that was right up there.
And the kid was fine. He wasn't really annoying.
Oh.
I didn't find him annoying.
I found him obnoxious as fuck.
It's just, but it was fucking unnecessary.
He was up there with me with fucking Darcy from the Thor movies.
Oh no, he wasn't that annoying.
maybe not as annoying, but way more useless. Because this movie, it's a similar issue I had with Darcy, whereas, like, I don't know why this unfunny forced comic relief needs to be here in a movie that's already funny. This movie has a lot of great comedic stuff in it, whether it's Peter Parker being funny, whether it's his, Tony Stark showing up. There's a great running gag in this movie with Captain America.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly fucking funny. And it has one of my favorite post-credit scenes in any of the Marvel movies. There is already genuinely funny stuff in this movie. I'm not saying this movie didn't need, like, a friend for Peter Parker to have in school or anything like that, but it didn't need, like, goofy-ass sidekick best friend.
Who knows your secret, like...
And but a core of this character's dialogue is just... That's so awesome. Oh, that's great. That's so great. Oh, that's so awesome. How's that work? It's so awesome. This character has the emotional depth of, like, fucking Jimmy Fallon.
Well, and where that character comes from is in the Marvel Ultimate Universe, the second Ultimate Spider-Man. He has a friend like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in the comics, the kid's great. But also in the comics, you have, like, 10 years of history building up. And
sure.
They're like, there's history, and, the character is... kind of like that, but like they don't try and give him a job. He's just his buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, it was just like, fuck, that was goddamn unnecessary.
Yeah, anytime that kid showed up, I'm like, you're annoying me. Your lines are annoying me. His lines are just the same 3 fucking lines over and over again. He's there to just force this comic relief in a movie that's already funny. Like, yeah. I couldn't stand this character. Flash I had a problem with.
I didn't really mind the Flash.
You know my problem with Flash was, and this Flash he's the kid from Grand Budapest Hotel. My problem with Flash in this movie is there's not a reason why someone hadn't slapped the shit out of this guy 5 minutes into the movie.
Well, and that is kind of the problem. Like, what they tried to do with this movie and take it out of the normal high school situation that Peter Parker was in, and the first Spider-Man comic and the first Spider-Man movie and the early comics is, instead of this being a normal high school, they're at like a technical school for really smart kids. So they changed Flash Thompson into just this cocky kid who thinks he's better than everybody and comes from money instead of a jock who could physically overpower people. So he's not intimidating. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, but it feels like they're still trying to do the bully element with his character. Yeah. Every time it shows him, it feels like it's still lines that a jockey bully would be saying. But because he's this kid...
he's not intimidating.
No, he's not. Just right in his fucking mouth. There, that'll take care of him through the rest of the movie.
Every character in the movie could have whipped his ass.
Yes!
And that's, like, I don't care that they cast different racially for that character.
Well, no.
I don't...
They should have beaten him up because he's a brown person.
And I don't care that they, instead of making him a jock, they made him, stereotypical rich, annoying kid.
Mm-hmm.
But the casting was off.
Yeah.
Like, that's... It's... Yeah. Yeah, but overall, even though we have these complaints, it was still a good movie.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's a very fun sit. The hero is incredibly likable. I like that a lot of this movie is devoted to Peter Parker being bored, being kind of sitting around waiting for like a next mission to happen, and it's not happening, and he's sitting there trying to figure out what to do with this time, with this suit. And he's just anxious. He's just anxious to get into the shit again. I like that. I like that about this. And I did like the high school element part. Largely because, you've seen that before in Amazing Spider-Man and in the first Sam Raimi one. But this one, more so than the other ones, really feel like a Peter Parker and his high school experience. And that largely has to do with Tom Holland.
It does, because, I mean, you think about it, and they tried it with the other two characters, and for different reasons it didn't work. At Tobey Maguire, it's like, dude, you're 34. And this moping shit is just kind of sad. Like, you're not really doing a great Peter Parker. And in Amazing Spider-Man, it's like, you're just too good looking. You know what I mean?
He was at least funny, you know?
Yeah, he was funny, but he was just too fucking good looking. You know? Tom Holland is like, he's not a bad looking dude, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, I can still see you getting picked on.
Yeah, really, like, it is Andrew McCarthy-esque. Yeah. It really is. I mean that as a compliment, because that's awesome.
You're like, you're a good-looking dude, but you're not young James Spader good-looking. You know?
Right. Yeah. He's not Steph.
Yeah.
I totally recommend this movie.
Oh, and I do too. Especially if you like superhero movies and stuff like that. Like, it's good. It is one of the better Spider-Man movies.
Easily.
But in my opinion, not one of the better Marvel movies.
No, it's not. And comparing it to, like, the superhero movies that have been out this year, I might have consistently enjoyed Guardians 2 a little bit more than this.
I definitely enjoyed Guardians 2 more than this.
Yeah. Wonder Woman, there was a majority of Wonder Woman where I was like, man, this is one of the best superhero movies I've seen in years. And I still love the movie, but Wonder Woman's got it's not that in the last 20 minutes of that movie it shits the bed. It happens to make it to the restroom in time first. But it had some shit there in the last little part of it where I was like, okay, I'm not loving this as much as I was before, but looking at it as an entire piece and everything, I really did love Wonder Woman. This movie, any issue I had with it never really made me think like, I'm not loving this as much as I was before or anything. If anything, in this movie, for me, I got more invested and more interested in the movie as it went along, especially in the third act of the movie.
The first act of this movie is real slow, which I didn't quite expect.
It's not that I thought it was slow. It was more that I just kind of, because of the trailer, kind of saw everything that was gonna happen in the first two acts of the movie. I never sat there bored in this movie or anything like that.
No, I was never bored. I mean, there was a few times where something that would happen on screen that took me out of it for a second, put me in my own head. But I was never bored.
Mm-hmm.
And what consistently drew me back in was either Tom Holland or Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
When you have two,
which luckily they're
really
in a majority of the movie.
Yeah, and this movie's not bad, but even in a shitty movie, if you have two really good leads, you can at least watch it. You know?
Yo, Michael Keaton movie was awesome. Remember Desperate Measures? A movie that if anyone else was in this movie, I don't know how good it would be. But it was Andy Garcia and Michael Keaton running around a hospital trying to kill each other. And it was so underrated. It's a blast. Andy Garcia's kid needs like a bone marrow transplant, and only a serial killer has the right blood, and it's Michael Keaton. Watch that shit. It's so good. Watch it on a double feature with Pacific Heights. Another really good, that's a good movie. Pacific Heights is a movie that not only has a scary Michael Keaton performance, but also teaches you a lot about rental law. No, I don't know if I have anything else about the movie.
No, it's once again, when we're doing reviews like this, it's really easy to go into the things that don't work perfectly.
And because of that, there are going to be people who say, why do you hate this movie?
But that's the thing is, I still highly recommend it.
So do I.
But it's easy to talk about the things you don't like more than it is to talk about the things you do like, especially in this format, you know?
Especially in a movie like this, where you can really kind of get into what you do really love about the movie fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Which I think we did. Like, it doesn't take much time at all to talk about what I like about the characters in this, what I liked about the story, and we talked about that. So, yeah, the movie's very entertaining. There was a big crowd in there. We went to the 2D showing because there were only shitty seats left in the IMAX. Guess I should have gotten here 2 hours earlier.
Man, seeing that in IMAX 3D, those shaky cam scenes probably would have made me fucking nauseous.
Right. Yeah. Fuck. No, like go see the movie. Go, definitely go see it. Next week, I'm gonna be at a con this weekend. Indie Pop Con is going on in Indianapolis. That's going on all weekend long. So we'll have Jesus Bro there. We'll have the other DVDs as well. I'll try to see The Beguiled at some point next week. It is showing tonight, but it's showing at a time that was like it was starting.
It wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus I got to drive to Indianapolis tomorrow. Like it was showing at a time. It was starting like right after Spider-Man ended. And then next week I'm pretty sure is War for the Planet of the Apes.
Monkeys.
Spoiler.
Oh, sorry. Wait, we do spoilers all the time.
Oh, that's true. Forgot what
Stop carrying it. Like, I forget sometimes to announce spoilers before we start going into them.
Luckily, most people, I think, know at this point that, like...
Our show's gonna have some fucking spoilers.
Yeah, well, the fact that it's a 20 or 30-minute video, probably gonna have some fucking spoilers in it. Alright, see ya.